This week on The Breakout, we're talking about
CYBERCOM 2.0-ish?
and flight school next.
What?
Like after.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Welcome to The Breakout. I'm Lee Ferran.
I'm Mark Pomerleau.
We brought Mark on to talk about CYBERCOM 2.0, as he said, ish, because it's not exactly what CYBERCOM 2.0 was billed as. What's going on?
Sure. So a few years ago, the Defense Department unveiled this notion of CYBERCOM 2.0. It was really billed at first as a holistic reexamination of the headquarters, the forces, a lot of the inner workings of the organization.
A whole 2.0. Like this is not a 1.1, it's not a 1.2, 2.0.
Exactly, Lee, yes. This was supposed to modernize the command into the next generation. Recently, the Defense Department unveiled its essentially new plan, which is a lot of what was in the old plan, a new Center for Advanced Training, a new talent management organization, a new Cyber Innovation Warfare Center.
It didn't have Cyber Command 2.0 anywhere in it, not the name at least. A lot of the parts were the same, but this is all about what they call workforce generation, like how to have better, more talented, and more numerous cyber operators, right?
That's right. The command has essentially remained the same since it was founded about 15 years ago. And as we all know, cyberspace is such a dynamic environment. And so they really wanted to come up with ways on how to better develop cyber talent and get a better pipeline from the services into the force.
And a lot of it has to do with how exactly cyber operators get to CYBERCOM when they're recruited through the other services. You had been reporting on this for months ahead of time, while it was being developed. You were speaking to sources about before the announcement. What did they have to say about how this ended up, the final version that came out?
Sure. I think it's important to note some context as well. I think when it was first billed a few years ago, a lot of folks thought that it was going to be this huge sweeping change and really set it up for this big decision.
Sure.
I think what ended up happening was it wasn't the big sweeping change that a lot of people thought it was going to be initially. So I think part of it ended up being a little bit of a branding issue. But a lot of these issues that are coming up now are things that really the command has to be able to do regardless of any of these major force generation issues. And it's also about realizing some of the authorities that Congress has granted it in the past year or so.
So maybe not quite as ambitious as originally billed, not as ambitious as a 2.0 might suggest, but certainly taking steps in the direction that I know CYBERCOM has wanted to go in for a long time. So you'll be following that as we go ahead, see how it actually plays out. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about flight school next.
And you're actually going to explain it this time, right?
Someone will.
At Leonardo DRS, our agility helps bring the ability to dominate in any scenario, on any platform, helping our warfighters accomplish the mission and get home safely. Leonardo DRS, our agility, your advantage.
So anyway, the joke is that Flight School Next is next because it's actually called Flight School Next, right?
It is called that. You're correct in that.
Sorry. We brought on Carley Welch here to talk about Flight School Next, which is the Army's program to do what?
Yeah, so it's its new way of acquiring both helicopters and training, the curriculum for the training for the trainers that they learn to fly in.
So this would be for all Army aviators, and it's really kind of a get back to the basics idea, so much so that the complaint the Army appears to have is that the current trainer is too advanced.
Yes, so the Lakota made by Airbus is the one that they currently are using now, and it pretty much flies itself. And that's not my words, that's Vice Chief of Staff General James Mingus who said that. So the Army is looking for a more kind of back to the basics training helicopter. Although I will say Airbus does still plan to compete in this new Flight School Next.
You can imagine they're saying, well, yeah, you can turn off all that assisted stuff. But anyway, the Army's looking for a new helicopter to get more what you would call stick and rudder time, really back to the basics of flying. You spoke to a few companies that have said that they're going for this. The Army has some pretty specific requirements.
Yeah, so there's three that really stand out. One is that it has to be IFR-certified. It's a bunch of safety standards, if you will. Another is that it has to be a single engine. And another is that the rotor has to turn counterclockwise.
Don't ask me why that's important. I'm not an aviation expert. But it's going to be an interesting competition to watch. What's the timeline we're looking at for this?
Yeah, so original responses were due October 31st. However, with the government shutdown, that got pushed, and then it got pushed again to December 15th.
So it's going to be a huge program whenever it is finally announced and whenever it comes together.
Right.
Because this is for every Army aviator that goes from, your basic helicopter pilot to the, 160th doing special operations guys. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Carley's going to stay on it for us. Make sure to like and subscribe to these videos so you get them in your inbox every time. And I believe we're on podcast. Carley, you until just a few minutes ago didn't know we had a podcast.
That is embarrassingly true, yes.
Yeah, we have a podcast. So search for us wherever you find your podcast. We'll see you there. Till next time, I'm Lee Ferran.
And I'm Carley Welch.